think we just waste a significant amount of money in our government. And I know there's a lot of criticism about, well, how much should the federal government mimic a private business or a publicly traded company? I think we need a little bit of it. I think we need to streamline it. Technology could potentially replace a significant amount of people. We have too much bureaucracy. And so I'm curious to see if their advisement to the president working in tandem with Congress could potentially improve some of those things. I take the point about the laws that's going to make it a little bit difficult. They'll have to work around that. I suspect that they will.
Right now, most of the rules that bind people in this country, they're not even written by Congress. They're never passed by the Senate. They're never signed into law by the president. They're written by unelected bureaucrats in the back of three-letter government agency buildings who were never elected to their positions with no backstop of democratic accountability that actually create most of the laws in this country. Thanks to the Supreme Court, and thanks to the justices that Donald Trump put on the Supreme Court, we have a historic opportunity. I think this is a once-in-a-century opportunity. I think it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It may be the last opportunity that we are given in this country to finally use the overturning of the Chevron doctrine in the recent Loper case. 2 years ago, West Virginia versus EPA, SEC versus Jarski, that has laid the groundwork, planted the seeds for dismantling that administrative state. What we need is a president armed with a policy agenda to go in there and to actually get the job done. And if we do, that's a modern revival of 1776 itself, a modern declaration of independence that we first fought 250 years ago.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación, afuera. Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social, afuera. Ministerio de Educación, adoctrinamiento, afuera. Ministerio de Transporte, afuera. Ministerio de Salud, afuera. Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, afuera. Se acabó el curro de la política.
So it's just been announced at the time of us making this video that Donald Trump has announced Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be the heads of the government efficiency department, right? It will slash excess regulation and cut wasteful spending. Do you know that every year the federal registry increases? And if you look at the outcomes that we receive, like many government many government institutions like the Department of Education, they get worse and worse as the years go by. Before the Department of Education, we were the #1 education system in the world. After the Department of Education was created and it was tasked to manage and essentially manage and administrate all the other Department of Educations from a federal level in Washington, mind you, our education fell to down damn near the bottom of the world. How is that possible? What accountability did the Department of Education get? Nothing. A cushy government job where pretty much no one's at risk of getting fired. What incentive does that bring? Does that bring an incentive where people are going to work harder? People are going to actually improve on the metrics? Many of these leftists online that defend the Department of Education can't give me one metric where we improved on. They're going to use grades, which many people, we have a grade inflation problem. Degrees, we have a degree inflation problem. Damn near every job requires a degree when back in the day in the 70s when the Department of Education was created, certain jobs didn't need a degree. In the 70s, you could have been a Wall Street banker without a degree. Now you need a college degree. And they'll use these superficial metrics. Oh, look, we have more college degrees than ever before. Yeah, because more jobs are requiring them than ever before. That's degree inflation, grade inflation. These kids can barely read, write, do math. Have you seen the TikTok videos of asking Gen Z basic questions? Basic math questions? They can't even answer it. Yet liberals, Democrats, they'll fight tooth and nail to maintain the Department of Education. And one of the theories that conservatives have is that the purpose of the Department of Education is not really to improve education throughout the country. It's to control what information and education that your kids have, which AKA, as you saw from Javier Milei, afuera, is to condition the minds of the youth, right? And this is something that Elon Musk points out. Should your tax dollars really be paying for an organization ran by people who thinks the truth is a distraction? He's talking about the fact that government subsidizes NPR. Like NPR, but it's run by mostly liberals. Right? But all these liberals are, oh my God, you're putting too unqualified people. So-called centrists are mocking the picks. And I'm like, yo, our founding fathers didn't have any qualifications. This is the false dichotomy of credentialism that I think has captured us, or we've been conditioned to think that if someone doesn't have no credentials, it's the same thing that's going on with the Pete guy. I'm gonna do a video on him too. And my thought is that if you want more of the same, then you vote for more of the same. But if you want something different, then you have to pick someone outside the system.
Want to go in and reform that regulatory state? Maybe redirect it to advance our own ends? Or do we want to get in there and shut it down? That is the answer for the future of this country. We are going to get in there and actually shut it down. That's the afuera in the United States of America. We don't need less Javier Milei. We need more Javier Milei on steroids in the United States. If we do the job right, he's going to look like an appetizer course compared to what we actually have in store for our own future in this country.
Now, some people, especially if they're socialists, more progressive minded, more on the left, they may think this is extreme. You want to fire half the federal workers? Because, literally, there's a lot of redundancy in the government. Let's be honest here. When you have a guaranteed flow of cash coming through an institution where you don't have to worry about making profits, when a recession hit, your job is safe. When the good times hit, your job is safe because the American citizens, whether it's a good economy or a bad economy, will be taxed out of their money. Make it make sense. Personally, if I was a president, I would have pressured Congress to pass a recession tax cut. That when a recession happens, when a recession is designated, we cut 5% of taxes across the board because we're taking money from people who are struggling and we're using it to fund the government. This will create pressure for the government not to do things that put the private market at risk, where they're pulling their money from. This is why many people think taxation is theft. And I also have this this kind of perspective on it too. I see it as, hey, if I'm spending money on something, it's giving me a bad product, why should I pay you anything? If you did a bad job for me, why should I give you more money? And this is one of the biggest problems why governments don't tend to make good decisions, is because the government is protected from the bad consequences of their actions. This is the biggest point with inflation. This is why many people walking around, especially the wealthier you are, the higher your income, the less likely you are to say that inflation was a problem in your life. And you saw how people voted. People who are making six figures voted not overwhelmingly, but majority of the time for Democrats, which coincides with this narrative that I had put it out in my channel that there's stats out there that said that the higher your income, the less likely you are to say inflation was an impact. The more likely you are to say that the economy is good. And this is what I was trying to explain about these journalists on CNN trying to defend Biden's economy. Biden's economy wasn't good. His inflation averages was still higher than Trump's inflation averages. And then after, compared to Trump's administration, if you make a comparison, 26% inflation increase from Joe Biden. Real wages are down under Joe Biden, yet the economy is good. This is the type of crap that liberals try to spew. But I digress. This is not about liberals. But I want to get you some insight of the amount of money that our government wastes. And then they complain about, we need more government money. We need to raise taxes. Well, if you were more efficient in how you manage the money already, you could do a lot more things. But the government always wants to make justifications for why they should take more of your money out of your pocket. And this is a bad trade-off. But I digress. Let's hear more about how government wastes our money.
Is this really how we want to be able to spend Americans' taxpayer dollars? We've set up a top 10 list that we listed out of some of the things that we just say, okay, of the 50 different examples, and we don't try to go into every single spending area, but we lay out in the guide for federal fumbles 50 different examples and just try to ask the question, is this the best way to be able to spend America's dollars? And again, we've all got different perspectives and different ideas on it. I'm just asking a question. For instance, last year the State Department did a grant to Ecuador to host 12 drag shows in Ecuador with American tax dollars. Now, may have different opinions in this room on drag shows. I'm just asking the simple question. Is the best use of American tax dollars to actually fund drag shows in Ecuador with U.S. tax dollars? I don't believe that it is. Last year, we actually did a different funding through the State Department that was actually done. Actually, this was the National Science Foundation. Excuse me, strike that. It seems like a State Department thing. National Science Foundation last year did a study of butterflies in Europe. So we funded with American taxpayer dollars a butterfly study in Germany where we paid a Swedish scientist to study.
Doesn't this sound like money laundering to you? Like, like, you're paying people money to study about butterflies for what purpose? How does that benefit the American people? Like, why do you need to go study this stuff? Like, this is questions that you like when you like. That's what I'm saying. Like, all you have to do is scale down the government. Pretend you live in a house with individuals in the house, and there's a common fund that you all contribute to. And someone who's in charge, who's been voted in to manage the funds, said, "Hey, I think we need to buy steak and eggs." And everyone goes, "Well, everyone in this house is vegan. Why would you need to buy steak and eggs when everyone here is vegan?" You automatically will question, okay, what's the purpose of the funds? Like, what is the purpose for you spending this money? And how does it correlate or attribute to the interests of the American people? And this is the kind of stuff people are doing. They're doing private favors for their lobbyists to get paid certain amount of money. Hey, we're gonna funnel some American dollars to your institution. And my biggest talking point is climate change is operating the same way. The reason why they fearmonger so much about climate change is that they're trying to create buy-in. So then they can do the same fraudulent stuff they're doing right now. Oh, we're going to pay $2 million for climate change initiatives. So climate change is pretty much a pretext, an excuse to give someone $250 million, $2.5 million. That's all it is. It's just to create justification. That's the only job of the government, it seems like, so far. This is why you need someone from the outside of the government to come in and manage this stuff, because people inside of the government will have that same mentality.
Study butterflies in Germany. I'm not real sure why American tax dollars, that was the best use of that, but that was one of the grants that was done last year. Last year, there was also a NEA grant that was done to set up a display in Brooklyn for the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. By the way, it's not even an American band, and I'm not sure why we had to pay federal tax dollars to be able to do that. My simple question is always, why are tax dollars being taken out of Oklahoma to be able to do that? Always popular. We had an almost, $350,000 grant to study smart toilets. Was one of the grants that we actually paid for with our federal tax dollars last year. We also had a grant that was done studying colonial Mexican soundscapes. Now, I'm sure colonial Mexican soundscapes.
Does this sound like ideological crap? And it's the same stuff they do. I remember in New York, I said this on a story. They gave $250,000 for transgender studies or something in high school, in public school in New York. Like, this is money. Like, it's the same way that Kamala Harris gave Al Sharpton $500,000 to his nonprofit before he gave an interview to Kamala Harris to say good things about Kamala Harris. I can infer that, because why would you pay someone $500,000 to his nonprofit before you interview him? And in the interview, he's giving you nothing but glowing praises and positive coverage. The appearance of it seems that you did you was trading favors, right? But I outlined, hey, the government, these officials are doing the same thing in government. Socialists, oh no, there's no problem with that, but they want to give these people more control and power over your life. This is why I lean more on smaller government than bigger government. You're money laundering right here. You want to talk about how, Republicans and the NRA, but you don't talk about Democrats and the media, Democrats and the pharmaceutical companies, Democrats and all these nonprofit left-wing organizations, these activist groups that seem to have a stronghold over the Democratic Party, and how they're paying these scientists, who are not even American, by the way, to research these things, these abstract things. You want government money to be funding CRT, and when people call it out, you want to get mad? Like, you see this as this is theft. You are stealing from us. You're stealing our money, and then you want to use it to prop up people on your side. This is the same thing Obama did with Eric Holder when he was finding businesses millions and billions of dollars, and for them to get out of it, they said, "Oh, if you donate to this left-wing nonprofit group, we'll call it square on your fines." And this is how he was redirecting funds away from the House Republicans when they had the majority during Obama's administration. I did my research. This is what Americans are talking about. This is what Americans can't stand. American first. How is that American first? How is it American first to sue a corporation that was found to do things that broke regulation, and instead of making them pay the fine to restitute back the people they defrauded or harmed in their bad practices, you redirect those funds to fund left-wing activist groups that pushes your cause? Like, make it make sense. This happened under Obama. But leftists and Democrats want to talk about, oh my God, if only Obama could run again. I don't want that guy to run again. When my dad found out about all this corruption that Obama was doing, my dad stopped effing with Obama. My dad said, I'll never vote Democrat again. 2010, my dad decided that. And then he taught his lessons to me. He said, yo, look, these people are corruptible. Hey, look, the Democratic Party reminds me of the political party that ruined Haiti. That's what my father told me. And I was like, oh, word? And I look at their actions, I'm like, yeah, they will ruin this country. But they want to pretend they're so moral and virtuous. I'm done with my rant, man. Let's continue, because hearing this is pissing me off. I'm more pissed off. It's like someone took my money and I told them, hey, fix my car. And instead it came back and made my car worse than how I paid you and you made my car worse. I'll be pissed. This is how I see our tax dollars getting wasted. I'll let this play out for another 2 minutes.
Are fascinating, but we paid for a researcher to travel to Mexico and then to be able to write a series about the sounds of colonial Mexico and how they could be used to be able to influence communities. We, last year, did a study on helmets and seatbelts in Ghana to be able to study whether seatbelts and helmets were effective for saving lives in Ghana.
But Kenny, you can't run a government like a business. It sounds like I should. We trade ideas all the time. Like, make it make sense. If it works for one group, why can't it work for another? We're all human beings here. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me. Helmets and seatbelts?
Can I just go ahead and answer that question for free? Seatbelts and helmets are a good idea. They save lives.
Redundant. Like, why?
Free. I can go ahead and give you that advice. How do I know that? Because we've already spent millions of dollars in other studies here in the United States, but instead,
you want to find justification to spend government money, so you make up a BS excuse and be like, yeah, that seems like a good rationale to spend this money. And this is all it is. This is all our government's done. Should I continue? The more I continue, the more pissed off I get. And you wonder why people cheer when Elon Musk said, I could cut $2 trillion out of the spend. People go, because we know you wasted money. But you want to print, like, the only way you can sit here and tell me the government should not be cut down is if you can prove that the government can justify reasonably every expenditure that it puts out to the American people. But it can't. Look at the crap. All you got to do is do some digging. You find out they're wasting money.
We spent money in Ghana studying helmets to see if they're actually a good idea there. And amazingly, they discovered, yes, they are. There was also a grant that was done last year. I've got to just walk this one through. This was at the Springfield Museum of Art in Missouri. There was a grant to be on a display, an installation in the exhibit in the museum called Yoko Ono Mend Piece. Now let me just read this to you. It's a simple white room where shattered cups and saucers are placed on a table, and participants are asked to mend the fragments together using common household items like twine, glue, scissors, and tape, and the resulting works are displayed on nearby shelves as evidence of the power of collective action. Again, I'm not opposed to fixing broken saucers in a public place and displaying them. All I'm asking is, why did Oklahomans work overtime last year to pay their tax bill to fund doing the Yoko Ono White Room where people fixed broken saucers? I don't have a good answer for that yet, by the way. I'm still trying to be able to get that. If you like wine country, great, you help pay for it. One of the highest income areas in the world is Napa Valley, California. One of the highest income areas in the entire world. The good folks of Oklahoma helped pay for a wine pedestrian trail through Napa Valley because
Pretty much, this is just jockeying to use collective resources to fund your own individual industries, districts, in your own damn state. This is what the government has become. And then you get mad when people get happy about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, because you're wasting our money. You don't deserve more of our money. When someone's doing a bad job with managing something, you give them less stuff to manage. If my son doesn't know how to manage $100, I say, hey, let's start off with $10. Let's see if you can manage $10. And that's what we need to do to the government. I digress. Hey, I'm happy Vivek and Elon Musk are on the job. I hope they get some real power. I hope this department has some real teeth to actually do what we needed to do, which is afuera, the wasteful government spending. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts about what you have discovered in this video. And I hope this video highlights how bad the government process is and the incentives that govern their decision making. It is all bad. It is a huge moral hazard. And I hope that you understand. I hope I was able to convey that through this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.